Weirdly, I kind of like the look of these over the normal ones. The normal ones don't really look that bad, apart from the little glove thing that you basically hold them in your hand with. But for some reason mine have gone some weird blue. But the blades, they look kind of big on the normal one, whereas this, they actually look more like claws. I like the fact that you've got this little reinforcing bar on the back. Not on the normal ones, on the prime ones as well. They actually do look better. And it's not a lie. All you gotta do is look at it. Green across the board. The Venka Prime, way nicer. Does way more damage as well. Comes with a V and a dash. I don't think I formatted the normal Venka. Did I? I did not. And that came with... Wait, no polarities? Okay. Huge improvement, even over the normal one. But it is a Mastery Rank 8, and it does cost... What is it? 2 Venka Prime Gauntlets and 2 Venka Prime Blades. As well as 15 Orokin cells to actually build this thing. 12-hour build time, of course, so that's not really that much. Considering there's a prime frame with these, that's kind of a good thing. And just for the record here, no. Still not yet. With my biggest problem to these coming to the fact that they are basically just giant claws, and since they came with Valkyria Prime, who by the way has an ability who gives her giant claws, I can see why they would put them on her, but at the same time if she has claws, why would she need claws? Really, I'm just kind of being picky with this whole thing, but they're actually much better than expected. That 0.05 increase in attack speed is fairly noticeable, and the slash going from 25.9 to 41.3, also more noticeable than I expected. I mean, it's the same with the puncture going up slightly and the impact also going up slightly. Everything kind of went up just a little bit. Crit went up to 25, so putting a crit build on these made them weirdly, I don't want to say fun, but useful. And all I did was basically put on Prime Pressure Point, Blood Rush, Body Count, True Steel, Organ Shatter to increase the crit, the timer. Obviously Pressure Point is for the damage. Buzzkill also on there to increase the slash. Only took it to 239.3 though. And even Voltic Strike and Virulent Scourge. I think if I was going to actually format this, I'm going to put a V on here and a dash on here so I can put the normal elemental mods on rather than the dual stat ones. This was just kind of a, I didn't have to format this thing at all to get a fairly decent build. And even with that build on, these things, okay, if I really had to go full bore at these to make them much more powerful, I would probably ditch the True Steel for Prime Reach. No, Prime Fury. I would have to go for attack speed over range, because even though these things do have a 1.05 attack speed, their range is really kind of short. But if you increase the attack speed, you should be able to swipe quicker, and then you should be able to get closer to the enemies, and hopefully that would kind of counter itself out. And the attack speed is going to come in more useful at close range, whereas reach isn't going to help when they're already biting at your feet, which happens a lot with the infested. So for crowd control, they're actually pretty useful. It doesn't really matter what enemy you go up against, they're still pretty useful. Ground pounds were even better than I expected them to be. The normal Venka is pretty much exactly the same when it comes to this. The ground pound has more range than the actual swinging attack, which most ground pounds do on most weapons. So I kind of like that, plus it's useful for the little infected guys that run around on the floor. Don't really tend to do ground pounds with this kind of melee weapon though, which is why I went more for the crit build. Of course, True Steel works in junction with Blood Rush to increase the... Blood Rush kicks in on top of True Steel, I should say. So True Steel took the crit chance to 40%, then Blood Rush will kick in with 100 and something after that. Body Count works with Blood Rush to increase the combo, and while I was leveling this up it kind of got better. It wasn't until I put Organ Shatter in here that I started to think to myself, it's actually doing much better than the Venka did before it, which is massively expected. It has more damage, it has a higher attack speed. I know it's a really silly thing to say, but the Venka, I expected so much from it, kind of like I did the Ripka, but they suffer the same problem. Short attack range. Can sometimes counter this with things like attack speed. If I was going to throw attack speed on here, Organ Shatter would have to go. True Steel would have to go. Organ Shatter, honestly, these things were pretty rubbish until I threw Organ Shatter on there, taking the damage multiplier from 2.5 for crit to 4.8. That's nearly double the crit damage it was doing before, and if you're going for a crit build, that damage is kind of important. There is lots of other builds you can put on these. The only reason I'm mentioning it is because that's the build I had on this when I was doing this, and I still think I'm probably just going to put a V and a dash on these, because despite the fact that you've got 2 blades, 2 gauntlets, the blueprint, weird things like that, these things weren't as bad as I was first expecting them to be. And this all comes down to the fact that, like all claw weapons, same with the fist weapons and any hand-to-hand style weapon, the range on them is fairly short. This is how it should be, because they're a small melee weapon. They shouldn't have amazing range beyond where you can physically hit them. With things like hammers and swords, yeah, okay, because you can imagine the swords are a bit longer. Claws, not so much. So it wasn't a whole, it's a major problem, but kind of modding this thing to sacrifice damage for range isn't worth it, same as damage for fire rate wasn't really worth it. But when it comes to the claw weapons, they are a massive improvement over the normal Venka.